Hi, my name is Emese Kiss, and in this video, me and my group members are going to compare culturally different countries and how this influenced the expansion of multinational businesses. I'm going to start by comparing the cost for multinational businesses of doing business in Hungary and Russia. One of the main costs of doing business with Hungary is the bureaucracy system, which makes the expansion difficult due to the long administration procedure. Sometimes it can easily stop a business from moving to the country due to the political forces and the hierarchy and bureaucracy system. Russia also has a strict bureaucracy and slow response from its local authorities and government agencies, making the process of distributing goods longer. Therefore, businesses operating in Russia and Hungary have a lack of security, which is a massive cost of doing business in regards to expansion. Corruption can cause inconvenience for multinational businesses, as it can include bribery, which illegally helps businesses to expand in the country, but it will have a negative effect on the credibility and profit of the business. Further developing a business who was found guilty of corruption will be also difficult, as investors will be skeptical in doing business with them. Hungary is ranked 48th on the Corruption Perceptions Index ranking list, which means they are highly corrupt compared to Russia, who is the 136th out of the 175 countries. Another difficulty could be language barriers, as 98% of the population are Hungarians and the official language is Hungarian. Doing business with smaller companies and outside the capital called Budapest will most likely to have difficulties in the communication. However, English and German are widely spoken, but it's good to learn some Hungarian phrases if multinational companies would like to expand in the country, even when it's a difficult language to learn. On the other hand, there is a language barrier in Russia as well, because the education system does not always provide to learn foreign languages, such as English, which means multinational companies will have to hire a translator to be able to communicate about the expansion in the country. Legal barriers at public procurement can also cause difficulties for multinational companies to move into Hungary, as they can limit their entries depending on their product. Public procurement largely affects countries' GDP due to the large amount of money at stake, which can often make the government favor national firms than foreign firms. In Russia, the public procurement of innovation at the moment is fully developed, which makes it hard for multinational companies to develop their business in the country. The likely future economic development of Hungary and Russia. The GDP in Hungary is expected to keep growth from 3.8% to greater than double due to the increasing internal demand, which is because of the income policy set by the government to increase the lower wages, pension and family tax reliefs, as well as cut taxes. Increased wages, decreased unemployment and less tax payments mean increased spending power in the economy. But the increased demand still does not reach the 3% rate of inflation, which should be the target for 2018. The retailers experienced a growth in sales and expected to increase in 2019. The country has forecasted a 3.2% expansion in the economy next year, which is twice the European average. On the other hand, Russia's GDP is expected to rise 2% in the second quarter, which is a smaller rise compared to Hungary, but they are ranked 11th in the ranking of quarterly GDP, whereas Hungary is the 58th. It means the value of the market in Russia is more than in Hungary, which is important for multinational businesses if they want to expand their business in another country. And now I'm going to pass it over to James, who will continue the comparison of the likely future economic development of the country and their business practices.
Hello, my name is James Wyatt, and I'll also be continuing from Emese and to be discussing a comparison and the similarities between Russia and Hungary. Russia may pretend to have a low GDP, which also means that there will be a result in having a recession. However, they may be economically weak, but they're politically very strong, which enables them to bypass their economic drawbacks. As being a country that has a strong political economy to where citizens do not revolt as much as in the 20th century, it means that they have a higher potential for good, highly functioning economic future. In addition to this, there's another reason why Russia contrasts with Hungary. This is because they do not need any economic support from the EU or any other organisation, and are potentially run on its own, country's economy. This is highly contrastable with Hungary for the reason that they may sustain a higher economic growth. However, they highly depend on funds from the European Union to reduce their debts and invest into multinational businesses. In addition to this, that Russia at the moment is a centrally planned economy. However, it's currently undergoing a transition to a free market economy. This intensifies the fact that there will be free competition in which prices are determined by supply and demand and not by the actual government. Therefore, demonstrating that GDP will rise and exports and imports will also rise in a high percentage, ultimately resulting in a positive future on the economic sense. Most of Russian businesses, people tend to pay a significant amount of attention to how they are dressed. Statistics show that Russian business people spend most of their family budget income on clothing than any other type of product. Men usually dress in dark suits, while women tend to mostly wear business suits or formal dresses, which therefore implies that in business practices they have higher standards on their dress code. In addition to this, common work week is 40 hours long in Russia, and strict overtime laws mean few workers go beyond 50 hours. This statement/quotation is a reason that on average an ordinary citizen works 8/9 hours a day, Monday to Friday, with additional hours for overtime. At the same time, this also demonstrates that the way businesses and practices are run in both countries can lead to higher income being generated as there's more productivity time to produce goods and give excellent service, unlike other countries that may not offer overtime. Russia, in addition to this, has a power index of 93 out of 100 on the scale, which is a dramatic high power distance, which therefore elaborates the way that Russian practices are run. Subordinates do not question demands and orders given to them, demonstrating that leaders basically command and control the whole business. This therefore results in subordinates becoming brainless vegetables, which provides a lack of morale. However, Russia sticks to its traditional way to run the business for the reason that higher power is very beneficial when speed is the most important. I would like to conclude on this, and I would also like to pass you over to Kevin, who will also be talking about the UK and similarities and differences. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin, and in this part of the presentation I'll be outlining the cost of multinational businesses doing business in the UK, likely future economic developments of the UK, and some of the UK's business practices. I will also be comparing my findings with Sweden. Firstly, due to Britain leaving the EU as a result of Brexit, it causes both UK businesses and multinational businesses to be uncertain about the future. This is because there are still ongoing negotiations. After Britain leaves the EU, it's possible that there will be new tariffs, rules and regulations for both businesses and citizens of the UK. So multinational businesses starting up in the UK face possible threats of new tariffs, rules and regulations that they were not aware of when first starting up. As well as this, the Bank of England raised their interest rates. This will make it less easy for multinational businesses to start up in the UK, because it will be harder to borrow money or even pay back loans. This might even cause businesses and multinational businesses to be repellent when it comes to borrowing money to expand their business. On the other hand, the UK is very diverse when it comes to international citizens, and it's home to one of the most widely spoken languages in the world. So it should not be hard for an international business to settle and interact with potential customers. In recent years, the UK's economy has grown to reach the size as it was before the recession in 2013. It will be good if it continues, but the future economic development of the UK does not look too good as a result of Brexit. People have become uncertain about the future, so they've started to spend and invest less. This causes the economy of the UK to slow down. On the other hand, the GDP of the UK has grew exceeding expectations by 0.5% at the start of 2018, despite the announcement of Brexit. So, the growth of UK's GDP gives a bit of hope for the future and further economic developments of the UK. As for business practices, the UK has similar practices to most westernized countries throughout the world. For example, the normal working hours are between 9 to 5 on weekdays, and it's also compulsory for people in full-time work to get paid holidays. As for uniform and dress code, men are usually told to wear white shirts and tie, black trousers and black dress shoes. Females are usually told to wear knee-length skirts or long trousers with a white shirt or blouse. Another business tradition practiced in the UK is shaking hands. This is a traditional business greeting, which is a sign of respect and acknowledgement. It is also normal for employees to address their superiors as Mr., Miss, or Mrs., depending on their gender, following their last names. When trying to compare cost of doing business in Sweden with the UK, we can see that they are different in the ways that taxes work. In the UK, taxes are based on the individual's income, whereas in Sweden, it depends whether or not you are a tax resident or non-tax paying resident. Another difference with Sweden is that they are still included in the EU. This means they do not have the uncertainty that multinational businesses would have if they were to move to Britain. Furthermore, their rules and regulations and taxes are likely to stay stable and predictable as a result of them being in the EU. Thanks for listening.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm going to be answering questions about the Swedish economy and business. The first question I'm going to answer is, what are the costs for multinational businesses of doing business in Sweden? In comparison with other countries, and although it's small size, Sweden has a remarkable number of large multinational firms. And some things you need to be aware of when doing business in Sweden is corporate taxation. The corporate income tax rate in Sweden is 22%. All income of corporate entities are treated as business earnings. Employer and employee taxes. The income taxation of the employee depends on whether the employee is considered to be a tax resident or a non-tax resident in Sweden. The income tax rate for citizens are progressive and within 29 to 59%. Non-resident taxpayers are taxed with a flat rate of 20%. Customs and imports. The import of goods to Sweden from countries outside of the European Union will most likely result in a liability to pay custom charges and VAT. Second question I'm going to answer is, what is the future development of Sweden? Sweden has a very low public debt since the early 90s, and Sweden's success rate has been many of the other members of the European Union and the United States. Manufacturing has been a huge part of Sweden's high GDP growth in comparison with the other EU countries. Two of the future development plans of Sweden is 1. Increased productivity in the public sector. With a determined approach, its productivity could increase by 25 to 30% over the next 10 years, while keeping the same level of quality. 2. Sustain high growth in the international sector through increased innovation productivity. And business practices in Sweden. 3 of the business practices in Sweden is punctuality. Business meetings in Sweden are normally informal, but they still follow some rules. The first of these is to be on time. Punctuality is a point of pride and shows professionalism and respect for others. Second one is professionalism. Swedish people have a reputation for being reserved and somewhat unfriendly. It is true that firm lines are drawn between businesses and social dealings, meaning that invitations to after-work activities or being invited to dinner at work colleagues' houses are very rare. They like to keep the business life separated from the social life. The third one is business dress code. Sweden is one of the EU countries where a casual dress code is the most popular in the workplace. However, for business appointments, you should dress more conservatively. Swedish people are usually very fashionably well dressed in public. Appropriate work clothes could be suit and tie for men and business suit/skirt and blouse for women. Trousers are also acceptable for business women in Sweden. And if I would be to compare Sweden to the UK, I would say one of the biggest differences between Sweden and the UK is Brexit. As we all know, UK is leaving the European Union, while Sweden is still apart from it and does not have any plans of leaving. And while Sweden is open to do business with all of the EU countries, the UK is still uncertain about the future business with those countries. And this is because there are still ongoing negotiations about how it all be done. Thank you for listening and bye.